The Kingdom of Kush. We start in the south of Egypt, along the Nile River, with the Kingdom of Kush. Kush rose around 1070 BCE in what is today Sudan. For most of its history, it lived in the shadow of Egypt, sometimes as a rival, sometimes as a conquered province. But in the 8th century BCE, Kush turned the tables. A Kushite king named Piye marched north and conquered Egypt itself. He founded the 25th dynasty, the Black Pharaohs. For nearly a century, Egypt was ruled from the south by Nubian kings. Kush eventually retreated to its capital at Meroe, where it built more pyramids than Egypt itself. Over 200 of them still stand today. The kingdom finally fell around 350 CE, conquered by a rising power to its east, a kingdom called Aksum. The Kingdom of Aksum. Aksum was one of the great powers of the ancient world. The Persian prophet Mani listed it alongside Rome, Persia, and China as the 4 great kingdoms of his era. Its capital city, Aksum, built stone obelisks over 100 feet tall, carved from single blocks of granite. No one is entirely sure how they were raised. Aksum controlled the Red Sea trade, connecting Rome to India. It minted its own gold coinage, one of the first kingdoms outside the Roman world to do so. In the 4th century, King Ezana converted to Christianity, making Aksum one of the first Christian kingdoms in history, centuries before most of Europe. Ethiopian tradition even claims the Ark of the Covenant itself rests in an Aksumite church to this day. But by the 7th century, the rise of Islam cut Aksum off from its Mediterranean trade. The kingdom slowly declined, and by around 940 CE it was gone, replaced by smaller successor states that would eventually become the Ethiopian Empire. Now we move west, and here we have to clear something up. The Ghana Empire was not in modern Ghana, it was located here, in what is today Mali and Mauritania. The modern nation of Ghana borrowed the name as a tribute when it gained independence in 1957. The empire was founded by the Soninka people, who called it Wagadu. The title of their king was Ghana, meaning warrior king, and foreign traders eventually used that title as the name of the whole empire. Ghana sat at the southern end of the trans-Saharan trade routes. To the north, across the desert, lay the Arab world, hungry for gold. To the south lay the forests of West Africa, full of it. Ghana controlled the middle. Salt from the north was traded for gold from the south, and the kings of Ghana taxed every ounce that passed through. Arab travelers wrote in awe of Ghana's wealth. One described the king holding court with gold-plated horses, servants in silk, and dogs wearing golden collars. By the 11th century, the Almoravids, a militant Islamic movement from the Sahara, began pressuring Ghana's borders. The empire held on for another century, but trade shifted, new powers rose, and by around 1200 CE, Ghana collapsed. Its place was taken by a successor that would become even greater. The Mali Empire. The Mali Empire was founded by one of the most legendary figures in African history, Sundiata Keita. According to the Epic of Sundiata, still performed by West African griots today, Sundiata was born crippled and exiled by his enemies. He returned, defeated the sorcerer king Sumanguru at the Battle of Karina in 1235, and founded an empire that would last over 4 centuries. At its peak, Mali stretched across most of West Africa. It controlled the gold fields of Bambouk and Buru, some of the richest in the world at the time. But Mali's most famous ruler was Mansa Musa, who took the throne in 1312. In 1324, Mansa Musa set out on pilgrimage to Mecca. His caravan reportedly included 60,000 men, 12,000 slaves each carrying 4 pounds of gold, and 80 camels each loaded with up to 300 pounds of gold dust. When he passed through Cairo, he gave away so much gold that the price of gold in Egypt collapsed. It didn't recover for over 10 years. On his return, Mansa Musa brought architects and scholars to Mali. He transformed the city of Timbuktu into a center of Islamic learning, home to the University of Sankore and libraries containing hundreds of thousands of manuscripts. At its height, Timbuktu had more scholars than most European cities had residents. After Mansa Musa's death, Mali began a slow decline. Succession disputes, Tuareg raids from the north, and the rise of a new power on its eastern frontier slowly ate away at the empire. The Songhai Empire. The Songhai Empire was, by territorial extent, the largest empire in African history. It was built by Sunni Ali, a brilliant and ruthless military commander who seized the city of Timbuktu from its Tuareg occupiers in 1468 and spent the next 25 years expanding Songhai in every direction. After Sunni Ali's death, power was taken by Askia Muhammad, a devout Muslim who reformed the empire's administration, standardized its laws, and made his own pilgrimage to Mecca with 300,000 pieces of gold. Under Askia, Timbuktu reached its intellectual peak. Sankore University attracted scholars from across the Islamic world, but in 1591, disaster came from the north. The Sultan of Morocco sent an army across the Sahara, something no one believed was possible. At the Battle of Tondibi, a small Moroccan force armed with firearms crushed a vastly larger Songhai army that had never faced gunpowder weapons. The empire shattered. Songhai was the last great empire of the Sahel. After its fall, West Africa never again saw a unified state on that scale. Great Zimbabwe. Now we move to southern Africa and to a civilization whose ruins still puzzle historians today. Great Zimbabwe was a stone city, the largest sub-Saharan stone structure ever built before modern times. Its walls rose up to 36 feet tall, made entirely without mortar. The city was the capital of a kingdom that controlled the gold and ivory trade flowing east to the Swahili coast, and from there to Arabia, India, and China. Archaeologists have found Chinese porcelain, Persian ceramics, and Arab glass beads at the site, proof that this African city was plugged into the entire Indian Ocean trade network. Around 1450, Great Zimbabwe was abandoned. Nobody knows exactly why. Possibilities include environmental collapse, political fragmentation, or shifts in trade. Its successor kingdoms continued, but the great city was left to the elements. The Kingdom of Congo. On the Atlantic coast of Central Africa, another power was rising, the Kingdom of Congo. Congo was founded around 1390. When Portuguese ships arrived in 1483, Congo's rulers didn't see them as conquerors, they saw trading partners. King Nzinga Aa converted to Christianity. His son, Afonso I, made it the state religion. Afonso corresponded directly with the kings of Portugal and the Pope. His son traveled to Rome and became the first sub-Saharan African Catholic bishop. But the relationship soured. Portuguese traders began taking Congolese people as slaves on an industrial scale. Afonso wrote desperate letters to Lisbon begging for the trade to stop. It didn't. By the 17th century, the neighboring kingdom of Ndongo and Matamba, ruled by Queen Nzinga, led armed resistance against Portuguese expansion for over 30 years. She became one of Africa's most celebrated warrior queens. Congo itself slowly weakened under civil wars and external pressure, finally absorbed into Portuguese Angola in 1914. The Benin Empire. In the forests of what is today southern Nigeria stood the Benin Empire, not to be confused with the modern country of Benin next door. Benin City was protected by a system of walls and moats so vast that it was, for centuries, the largest earthwork construction on Earth, 4 times longer than the Great Wall of China, though much smaller in scale. Benin is most famous today for the Benin bronzes, thousands of extraordinary brass and ivory sculptures created from the 13th century onwards, depicting kings, warriors, and everyday life. The empire was ruled by the Oba, a sacred king whose power was absolute. In 1897, Britain launched a punitive expedition against Benin. They burned the city, exiled the Oba, and looted the bronzes. Those artifacts are still scattered across museums in London, Berlin, and New York today. Nigeria has been demanding their return for over a century. The Ashanti Empire. And finally, we come to the Ashanti Empire. In what is today, yes, modern Ghana. The empire was founded around 1670 by Osei Tutu, who united the Akan states under a single crown. At the heart of the empire was the golden stool, the Sikadwa Kofi, said to have descended from the heavens. It was the literal soul of the Ashanti nation. No one, not even the king, was ever allowed to sit on it. The Ashanti built a disciplined, professional army and controlled the gold and kola nut trade across what the British called the Gold Coast. Between 1824 and 1900, the Ashanti fought the British in 5 major wars. They won the first one, killing the British governor and turning his skull into a drinking cup. They held on for decades against the global empire. In 1900, when the British demanded the golden stool itself, the Queen Mother, Yaa Asantewaa, led the final war of resistance. She lost, but she became a legend. The Ashanti Empire was annexed into the Gold Coast colony in 1902. But the golden stool was never surrendered. It was hidden and it remains in Ashanti hands to this day.